Okay, in this video, we're gonna finish things up. So we look through there to see if there's anything I forgot. And the last thing we have is the output to the dual flasher. So that switch controls the trigger for that flasher that'll flash the left and right at the same time. Okay, so the switch that controls that dual flasher, because it's going to flash the left and the right at the same time. We're just hooking it to there and then down to the triggers there. These are labeled on those flashers, the plus and minus. Next, we're going to connect the Hall effect for the amp meter. So I'm trying to show the arrow there. We'll do it in another video. I'll make it more clear so you can see that there's a directional arrow. So if you put a wire in backwards and you're getting minus, just run the wire through the other direction. It's about that simple. So in this particular box, I just have power coming from the 7-way and then power from the auxiliary input. And they can just get paralleled. They're going to jump up to the upper portion of the box. So the first one was from the 7-way and the red wire was from the aux input. And now we're going to parallel that wire from one Wago to the other junction, to supply power to the top of the box. Okay, now we're going to connect up the amp meter. I'm just going to mark this up here so you can see it a little better. There's an arrow on this. So I'm going to bring in my power. I'm going to bring in my power from this direction. So from the 7-way, it'll go through here, and then from my auxiliary power, it'll go that way. And you can see that represented here. On this particular model of box, we don't use an internal power supply. So this relay, this switch is not used. This charge port, that's a charge port. So if there was a battery in here, we had a way to charge that battery. So that's not there. But the input power we do want to run it through this way. So this would represent the input power, that auxiliary power port. And then from the 7-way here, you can see it's going through that direction also. And then I'll just parallel onto a Wago there, and then it feeds up to the top part of the box. So next thing we're going to do is tie in the ground from the negative circuit from the 7-way to the Wago. This diagram is actually for a different box, but this is the basic part of that box that we're doing now. So this would actually go up to this one here. So you can see these two are just tied together. So in another version of the box, there's more circuits in it. So there's more junctions. But that's basically all we're doing. From the 7-way to the Wago and then back up to the top part of the box. Now we're going to tie in the negative part of the circuit. So we're going to get our white wire from the 7-way down to the Wago that's in the bottom part of the box. And then we're going to tie that in to the Wago at the top part of the box. So that negative circuit's just one giant paralleled circuit. Now we're just going to check and see that the lid will go on. We still have more wires to shove in there once we wire up the 7-way. That's why there's kind of a blank spot on the right side of the face of that, right? You can see that's where the 7-way goes. So here's a diagram I made up of the 7-way. We're going to wire that up next. You can see the black is going to the 12-volt, which is the top part of the plug. And then the green is on the other top part of the plug. That's your marker lights. And the two side ones are going to be your turn signals. Brown's the right turn, red's the left turn. Then at the bottom portion, you have your brake and your negative. White wire is your negative. And then your center post is your auxiliary, or in our case, it's going to be for the backup light. The way I remember, or how I taught myself, I've been wiring these for a long time. When I started, every single truck had to be wired. Nothing was pre-wired. We had to put hitches on the whole bit. The trucks didn't come with anything ready to tow a trailer with. So the way I taught myself to remember how a 7-way is wired is, if you're looking at the truck side, so the opposite side of this one, the one on the left-hand side is your left turn, and the one on the right-hand side was your right turn. So I had 2 of the 7 positions figured out that easy. Then I just remembered that the marker light was next to the left turn. Then after that, you know the top 2 are your 12-volt and your marker light. So, and then your ground or your negative was across from the 12-volt positive. So that's how I kind of memorized how the 7-way worked. So I leave that part of the 7-way in just to try to hold the wires in there in place as I feed them through there. Some of the wires I took out of an old box, like I've mentioned in previous videos. Some wires are new, so we're going to put some ringlets on here. I don't always use ringlets when I wire up 7-ways. As a matter of fact, I kind of don't like to use them on a regular 7-way. If you're doing it on a vehicle or a trailer, I feel like it's a potential failure spot. So you're just adding another spot for that circuit to fail. In this case, I chop off the end of that 7-way socket, so I've got plenty of room to put them in. And now we're just going to wire it up. And I do wire it up with the ringlet offset pointing downward, so the top is smooth. So it'll fit through the socket. And if the screw head is a dual, has a slot and a Phillips on it, I like to install them with a Phillips, and then I'll go back around with a standard screwdriver and cinch them up, make sure they're good and tight. And if you've wired up a 7-way before, this is all kind of self-explanatory. There's a notch or a keyed portion to line that up, put it in, and you've got a couple set screws to hold it in place. Then we're just going to reattach it to the box. We're going to install the fuses. I use a 20 for the brake circuit and then a 5 for each of the light circuits. And I put them on the face here to make them easy to get to and to change them. If you want to lower them to make that circuit a little more sensitive, you can. I've never had to do that. Those sizes have been working fine. Now that it's put all together, we're going to test it, and I've made a little box here on the right that simulates a trailer. It's got some brake magnets in it, and you can see we've got power coming in through the 7-way, and you can see we're testing the brake circuit. So you can see there's 11 amps there, and I've got a pretty small battery on it, so it drug down the voltage a little bit. But this is in position 1, so we're going to go through with this bottom row, and that's going to check each circuit individually. So if there was a direct short in that circuit, it should blow one of the fuses. So now we're doing the left turn. Those are incandescent bulbs that I have in there, but I also have a LED bulb in the backup light, so you can see that it's not registering on the amp draw. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling that plug, and then there's a little switch on the back of the meter that you press for 4 seconds and it resets it. It zeroes the amp meter. So now when I turn it on, you can see there's an amp draw. Very small, but it's there. Now in position 0, that's where I can operate the dual flasher, and then you can see those switches there, turn them on and off. So if I just want one side on, I can do just one side. It's very rare I have to use those, but at the time I needed it for a brand that we were carrying. Then position 2, that turns on the marker lights, and then it runs the left turn at a slow speed and the right turn at a fast speed. So you can do a visual, walk around the trailer and do a visual on each of those circuits, and you can make sure that the left and right are wired correctly. While it's rare, I have had them come from the factory with the left and right hooked up backwards. Here I'm just plugging in that auxiliary power. So if the trailer didn't have power, you could put power into the box from there, and then you could check the lights that way. So we'll do another video on the parts that I used. Not that you have to use the parts I use whatever you want, but I'll go through what I have used on this. So don't forget to check the links to other videos. There's one that's going to show it actually hooked up to a trailer and to a vehicle and how it operates in real life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.